What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite FN handgun. Now, I only have three. The FN503, which is a single stack that's either 6+1 or 8+1, that I believe is discontinued. And honestly, that handgun really is what got me into FN products, simply because of how durable that handgun was. I do new construction plumbing, and I use that as my work handgun. So it stayed in the pocket and was consistently being hit with moisture, debris, all sorts of stuff. And even though the finish started to wear on it pretty dramatically from all that, it always was reliable. That's the FN503. Then I got the FN Reflex. The Reflex is their version of a Micro 9. It's very similar in size and dimensions to a Hellcat. Therefore, you have the option of 11+1 and 15+1 magazines. Now, my favorite FN is this one right here, the FNS9C. This is their subcompact. If you guys have seen this channel before, I'm big into subcompacts. I think they're the perfect balance of shootability plus capacity and reliability. This right here is one of my carry Glock 26s. I absolutely love this thing. Now, that's why I really like this FN. It's basically the FN version of a Glock 26. Now, this is a discontinued gun as well. That's why I decided to make a video on it. Not only have I been seeing these everywhere in the used market, but I've been seeing them for relatively cheap. I've seen them as low as $250, all the way up to, I believe, I paid for this like $325. So not the biggest gap, and it's pretty consistent what I'm seeing price-wise. Now, if you look for this, what you're going to get typically is 3 mags with it. You're going to get this 12-round mag that's flush. Obviously, we're cleared and safety checked. You're going to get this one right here that's also 12 rounds, but has that pinky extension. So you can get, almost full 3-finger contact on that thing. And last but not least, the 17-round mag with a grip sleeve. And yes, the grip sleeve comes with it. So that's how basically I've been seeing them sold used. I don't know if that's how they came, but a couple times now that I've seen, they have had all 3 mags with them, which is pretty dang versatile. This right here is your deep concealment. You're going to be tucking that pinky when you draw and shoot. This right here is going to be okay. I'm trying to be as small as possible while still getting my whole hand on that handgun, right? And last but not least, your backup mag, or if you're just, it's winter time or fall, whatever the case may be, and you want to carry a little bit more capacity, that's what you can do. Now, that's why I love subcompacts so much. So I'll show you real quick compared to a Glock 26, 13+1 on the right, 12+1 on the left for the FN. That's that. Pretty comparable up top, although the FN does have a longer barrel, but very, very comparable in size. Very, very similar overall size footprint, right? Anyways, what do we have? We have this slide this finish on the slide that I'm not too familiar with. My other FNs have different finishes, and the finish on my Reflex wasn't very good, whereas the finish on my FN503 was absolutely flawless. So this one right here has not been so bad. A couple scratches here and there, not the biggest deal. Forward serrations, rear serrations, no optics cut. But like I said, you're getting this thing for like $275, $300, $315, whatever. 3-dot sights with like a little almost, squared off U at the bottom, if that makes any sense, with a point, all white. Of course, the rear is textured. And this thing basically can fit in your hand. It's extremely, extremely small. Obviously comes with a rail, slide stop, and everything just functions really well in this handgun. Everything. The only other thing I would mention is when you are releasing that mag, you almost got to find the sweet spot. You hit here, you hit here. Sometimes like that, depending on how you hit it, other people have had that same issue with some of the FNs. It's a little slow to come out, but once you get used to it, you don't miss that spot, right? Right here, trigger. It does have a hinge trigger, so it's not going to be like a lot of the new FN releases with obviously the FN Reflex being extremely different. And on top of that, the LAPD version and stuff like that has that flat face, really nice trigger with a dingus. This, though, is a hinge, similar to older Smith & Wessons, right? So you can't pull it up here, but second you get here and here, you're going to be good to pull that trigger. And this is what it looks like. Pretty crisp, pretty clean. Reset, pretty short, relatively short. especially compared to its counterparts, the FN Reflex and the FN503. A really, really nice reset right there. Now, the way I carry it typically is like this. Because they do this, even though it adds no capacity, it also doesn't add any length while you're carrying. If you can imagine carrying an appendix like this is what prints usually. So them having it like this, and that's why I carry base plates like this, as well as other pierce extensions on my Glock 26s, it does not add any extra printing, which is pretty nice. Overall, it feels like a Glock 26 Gen 5, just a little bit thinner. So it actually feels really ergonomic in the hand. It's really natural when you go to point it. And in terms of shootability, how would I rank this? I would say recoil-wise, it's right up there with the Glock 26. You're going to shoot this very similar to a Glock 19, a CZ P10C, you know, all sorts of stuff. That's what you're basically going to feel in terms of recoil. It handles it really, really well. On top of that, it's small enough to where I've heard some people even say they have pocket carried it. I don't recommend that, but you can. And then once again, if you're new to handguns and a beginner, or you just got a new handgun, or looking to get your first handgun that you want to do it all, this is a great way to go. Like I said, 17+1 basically turns it into a full size right here. Actually feels pretty good with that sleeve. Looks a little weird, but actually feels pretty ergonomic. Good texturing, good grip throughout the handgun, if you can see that. They just mimicked it on that sleeve. And like I said, now you have 17+1 full-size capacity. You can throw a light or laser on there if you want. Now, the one downside as well to this handgun is holsters. The holster options have been very limited. Now, there's a couple good companies I have found out there, but a lot of them have been not the greatest when they do have an option to get this model right here. But overall, I think it's one of the handguns, you know, that just... FN has pretty quiet releases other than the FN Reflex. They sort of are late to the game on some things, or, you know, they just fly under the radar. I don't know what it is, you know what I mean? So you typically didn't see many people talk about this. You know, they talk about the FNX45 and, you know, the 5.7 and all this stuff. But this handgun, just like the FN503, very underrated and rarely ever talked about. Honestly, if I didn't have my Glock 26, I would be perfectly fine carrying something like that. Will I carry it? Of course I will. It's a shooter. It's reliable. It's the perfect size. And on top of that, FN, I'm just an absolute fan of. So you got to give it that. It's basically very similar to the FN 509 series. The 509 series, they just changed a couple things. But in terms of shooting them, I actually rented a 509. Very similar. Trigger's a little different, but overall, I'm completely happy with this handgun. For $275 to $350, you cannot go wrong with an FN, let alone this one right here. It's basically a do-it-all handgun, a handgun that I enjoy shooting very much. Very accurate, reliable, never a single problem with any hollow points. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.